Hi, you're listening to Boggy Talk, Faith Conversations in the Mud, a resource of Church on Bayshore.
Hello, and welcome to Noggy Talk.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
All the things,
all
the Christmas
things.
music.
I got a red shirt on.
And you're looking very professional today. If you're listening, he's wearing a hoodie and a hat because
I'm working on my day.
Some time, taking
kind of
some time off. Yeah.
So Mondays are like a weird day for me because I'm not really like in the office because I'm spending that day with the Lord, man.
No,
studying
all day in the secret room.
No, scripture. Seriously, man. So like it makes it's y'all like it because I'm not bothering y'all on Mondays, and
we get a lot done on Mondays.
It helps me just to kind of get ahead, because I'm thinking about that sermon all week.
Yes, that's right, because it's in your heart.
We could do a whole episode on
it lives in your head and your heart for sure, and you're just constantly thinking about it. So anyway, how was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was it was thankful, a thankful day of giving. Yeah. I came to the Bayshore Community Thanksgiving, and it was really awesome. Shout out to Cassie and
Lee.
Alice for just doing a great job. I feel like it was the smoothest one I've been a part of.
I think it's kind of it's running well. We had a lot of deliveries. I think more deliveries this year than we've had, which is good.
Yeah, that is good.
I think we advertising and getting the word out, which was good. 537 meals. Was the official number.
That's good.
So we're thankful to be able to
I think it was lower in number just because less volunteers.
Less volunteers, and I think there were a few people who ate on campus, but there were. Looking at the delivery list, we had a lot of people, individuals that we got to deliver.
Man, people coming from Crestview and Fort Walton.
It was good.
I mean, there were churches there that could have, but it's all good. We're happy to serve.
Happy to serve.
So, and then we hung out with our family. Yeah. So I started a diet the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Why did you do that?
I know. Because I'm fat.
Saturday after.
And I lost 2 pounds this week.
Wow.
Which I'm like, that is, wow. Seriously?
Over Thanksgiving week?
I did still do Thanksgiving. And of course I was like, there's still pumpkin cheesecake. I got to eat it. So I'm great. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. We traveled, saw family in Atlanta, saw some family here as well as they came down to Florida at the end of the week. Good times, good time with the kids, and lots of food. My favorite, I love dressing, and I ate so much dressing because it's the only time of year you eat it, and it's so good, and I ate a lot of it. So I was happy with that. And we watched a lot of football.
I call it stuffing.
There's a difference.
Stuffing.
Stuffing, I mean, traditionally stuffing is cooked inside the turkey because it's stuffed, but it's a different thing. Like if you're thinking
stovetop is not.
No, that's stuffing. Yeah, dressing is different. There's like
I like dressing too. I like it all.
It's so good.
The only thing,
good.
I don't like cranberry sauce that much, but
I don't either unless it's on top of dressing. Ironically, if it's on dressing with some gravy, that you
surprised I don't like cranberry sauce. But
are we making you hungry, Boggy Talk?
It's Christmas time.
Yeah,
so let's move on. And we are really focusing in together as a church on Christmas time. Yeah, because it's Advent. And so sermons, and in addition to that, something new. I don't know that it's been done before here at this church, at least new since we've been here and the last 20 so years, is an Advent guide written by our own church members.
That's right. Yeah, this is really exciting. So we have an Advent guide. If you haven't pictures up, you can pick one up at the boat or at the welcome desk. Also, it's available, a digital version.
For those who don't live in Niceville, we don't actually have like a church boat. We're not that bougie.
We're close in Niceville. But
it's a children's check-in desk.
Our children's check-in area. But it's also available online, churchonbayshore.org. You can go there and you can find a digital copy of it as well. And really,
I didn't even know that. That's awesome.
It is. It's there online. You can download it, read it on your tablet. It'll be too small for your phone. To read on your phone. But really, this kind of came from, as we were sermon prepping and kind of calendaring out the year, to say, hey, we've got this time. We can do this in Christmas. Should we do something? And then some people have asked, hey, why don't we do Advent? And
which we've explained that before.
We have, and we talked about it. That's right. And so we talked about that.
But we're doing it.
But we're doing it. So
we're not going to be Baptist anymore.
So we were just,
somebody's going
to post that, right? Oh, man.
I don't care.
So
we are, for clarity,
we
very
are.
much
That was a
Baptist.
joke. Ha ha. So really just taking this time to intentionally as a church to prepare him room is kind of what Advent is all about.
Did you say him a room?
Prepare him room.
Oh, the way you said it's like him a room.
It's from the let every heart prepare him room.
Yeah, but it sounded like you said a room.
A room. Well, if I don't know if you compartmentalize Jesus like some Christians do.
That'll preach.
Burn!
Oh man, that's coming to a sermon near you.
Come on.
I'm going to use that one, Justin Wyatt.
So let's talk about Advent. Let's talk about what it is, a little bit of the history of why we're doing it this year. So
quickly, because I'm getting bored because I'm Baptist and
you're like, that sounds like Catholic.
Kidding.
No. So really, Advent, you can trace it back and can be traced all the way back to 380 is kind of the earliest recordings of it. But really,
sounds very pagan.
It's let's just talk about but people don't care really in America. Don't care about history much. They care about right now.
That's right.
So
yeah.
Advent didn't. So people act like Advent is this like. People have been doing this in America since the Pilgrims came out. No,
they haven't.
They haven't. In fact,
again, it's not
Advent,
American.
Yeah, exactly. Advent in its modern
it's not Baptist,
iteration.
it's not American.
Exactly. It's not at all.
Sounds like I'm against it. Like somehow you guys got this by
That's
me.
right. Haha. Now you're having to fake support.
Next time you take a day off and wear your hoodie, we're gonna be doing Lent.
That's right. Oh man, that's coming. I'm just kidding. But so Advent in its modern iteration and a lot of the practices of what we would say Advent with the 4 weeks and hope, joy, peace, and love really come from Germany and came over to America.
I thought you were going to say Hobby Lobby wall art. Hobby Lobby wall art.
Interestingly enough, as it came over from Germany after World War II, it still wasn't popularized until the 50s when President Eisenhower was photographed with his family doing an Advent devotion book. Then marketers caught on that they could sell this in America, and thus now we've seen a lot of growth in Advent because of Hobby Lobby. Cadbury is actually one of the first publishers of an Advent calendar in America because they tied it to chocolate.
We have a Lego calendar. We got it last year.
Basically, any toy now there's an because marketers have figured, hey, this. So
we are serious about it.
Yeah, that's right. So we're kind of really reclaiming this, I guess, from marketing. And what's interesting about Advent is that historically, the word comes from the Latin word adventus, which comes from the Greek word parousia, and it really means it's a word that means the coming or arrival. And in the New Testament, it's used about his birth and the second coming. So historically, Advent had a double focus, a focus on Christ's birth and his second coming. Now, in modern America, the focus of Advent is almost exclusively on his first coming, the birth. However, as we've planned Advent, we've really tried to keep the focus of the first, his birth and his second coming in line and in view as we're going through this season. So that's important to know. So as we talk about the Advent, we're talking about the arrival of Christ, the Christ child, but also the return of Christ and his coming as King. And that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah. And so, we hope you would take part in that. And we hope that it makes Christmas even more meaningful. And I think what you will notice, I think about, we do Christmas in a box as a family, and we fail and don't do it every day. And if you
catch up, and then
if you are focusing on Advent, there's a good chance you won't do it every day. And you know what that reminds you of? It reminds you that the point of Advent is not our faithfulness in the waiting. It's his faithfulness in the coming.
Yeah. Woo. Come on. You're like your preacher.
Yeah. So that's almost as good as the thing you said a minute ago that I already forgot.
Oh, about compartmentalizing Jesus in a room.
Yeah, that was good. I needed that because it's coming to a sermon.
We came about this because our kids ministry and Lucas has done Christmas in a box, and we thought, this is a way we can kind of take this church wide. And first, want to say thank you to all the devotions are written by life group leaders in our church and some of our pastoral staff.
Thank you.
There you go. And so we're thankful for their participation, and then also have to pause and just say a huge shout out and thank you to Robin Masters, who helped compile it, edit it, design some things for us, and so we're super thankful for her participation and volunteering all of that.
She mastered the process.
She mastered the project. Calendar. She did. She really did, and she helped with the children's guide as well too.
Thanks, Lucas and Robin, for all the work you guys did together.
So I guess really as we where was I going with this? Before I was like, I'm going to pause. And this is what I do all the time because my brain is always 5 steps behind and 5 steps ahead. But as we...
I don't understand that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what am I doing? Where am I? We're recording Boggy Talk. But as we do this...
Who am I?
I'm having an existential crisis right now.
Where am I? Who am I? But you're just nervous about the questions that we're going to ask because one involves your boss, your relationship with your boss. And so you're like, how can I say the truth? But also James is sitting next to me.
One of the things, now it's coming back to me. One of the things that is we're going through the book of Ephesians. And if I could turn back time. And that's another one.
Another what?
Another, I'm dying.
All right, wrap it up. Put a bow on Advent. Oh, you see what I did there?
There you go. We're tying together Ephesians chapter 6.
That's right. Yes.
And as we wait, what are we doing? And we're heading.
We're fighting.
That's right. We're talking about the armor of God and really tying in the armor of God to the coming of Christ. And so I would say, just as we approach Advent, I saw a great quote about this is, are we preparing room for him in our hearts like we're decorating our houses?
Ooh, preach
it. That's the purpose of this, is to pause and say, we want to keep the focus on Jesus. And how do we wait? How do we wait for him? We're active waiters. We're not people who go hide in a cave until he comes back. Like we are, let his kingdom come, his will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's his calling on our lives. And so as we anticipate his return, what are we doing? Well, as we go through this next series talking about the armor of God and how we prepare ourselves, how we stand ready and waiting, that's the goal. And I'm thankful that we have that opportunity. So
that's good.
So there we go. All right. I'm back from my existential crisis of what I'm doing and why I'm here.
Well, speaking of existential crisis, I think it's time to move to some questions.
Questions. You got them.
Yeah. So we are actually recording this the day before it drops, so we can respond to quick questions here.
Yes.
And this past Sunday, I wrapped up our series Clarity in Ephesians 6 and talked about the master-slave relationship. Obviously, a lot of nuances to that. I encourage you to go back and listen. But there were two questions there were several questions that I got asked, but two that I thought it'd be good to unpack a little bit more. So one is, should we be, in light of the fact that, we established that slavery is an evil, but there have been believers who lived in a world of slavery and they have to figure out how to obey Christ in that world. But for believers who have freedom, should we be doing everything in our power to advocate and abolish slavery? And I mean, the simple answer to that is yes, of course. The whole point is, if you have power, you either leverage that power for yourself or you leverage that power for others. And if you're following Jesus, you leverage that for others. And so you want to do whatever is within your power to reflect what Christ wants.
Right.
So I think that one of the great powers we have in America is the freedom of speech. And so I do think that, and the opportunity to vote. And so the opportunity to assemble. So I do think that we can be a part of organizing efforts to ensure that there is freedom and opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so, I do think a specific thing in the last 20 years or so, our country's become very aware of sex trafficking. And there are a lot of organizations. One More Child is probably the biggest one that we're connected with, that we support, and that are working to do a lot of the hard work. We've talked about that before, of bringing freedom. But absolutely, injustices in the world are things we should speak to and care about, and that the people of God should assemble.
Right, 100%. And I think to frame this, there's been, I would say, culturally in the church, maybe some pushback, because there's some people who would say, well, that's not a gospel issue, because we should be more concerned with evangelizing and sharing the gospel. And
it's both and, brother.
It's both and here's why. I actually read this over break, and I can't remember right now where I read it, but it's talking about injustice, and is injustice and Christians fighting injustices, is it a gospel issue? And they said,
I legitimately can't believe that's a question.
I know, right? I know, right? But because people do say
because
that.
Of politics.
Because of politics, exactly. Right. And what they did was frame it this way. It's like the greatest injustice that was ever done was a perfect God becoming flesh and suffering injustice, who he was wrongly accused. He suffered injustice. The cross is an injustice. And because he suffered that injustice, because Christ suffered injustice, it gives those who are suffering injustice hope because there is life beyond the injustice.
That's good. Yeah.
And for Christians, because Jesus was willing to use his, for lack of better words, his platform. Like we have, that's a terrible way to frame it, but Jesus laid it down for the sake of those who could not rectify the injustice themselves. Right. And so we who are in positions of power, influence, or having the ability are called. It is a gospel issue, and you cannot separate the two. Now, can we become so focused on injustices that we don't point people to the ultimate? Of course. No one's, some people are probably saying that, but we that shouldn't, it is a both and. We don't need to draw a line in the sand between this. We just need to keep our focus on Jesus and serving people and loving people and speaking up when we should speak up and laying down our lives like Jesus did. So,
yeah, and I would say the biggest practical thing we can do is, and this isn't true for everybody, but for most people, there's not a lot of individual activism that we can even do, but we can support churches and believers and organizations working in countries where there is not the same freedoms that we have here in America, and we can support organizations that are trying to do something about the evils and injustices that are happening in our country as well. But again, I think a big part of it is supporting other churches. One of my mentors, Bob Roberts, is majorly involved in the establishment of freedom of religion across the globe. We've had some brothers and sisters who've went through persecution. And actually, the first thing I did was call him and the organization he works for and just kind of, hey, what can we do? And is there something Bayshore could even be a part of to help ensure that we're doing something about this increasing persecution that believers are experiencing. And I would say that it's not just believers, but it's anyone, and that's why we value a society where there is freedom of religion, right? And avoidance of discrimination, and even there should be, and we get into nuances, but respect for people who have different lifestyles than we believe in. Like people shouldn't be imprisoned or enslaved because they make certain lifestyle choices that aren't causing direct harm to other people. So, and again, we're getting into nuances, but ultimately I think the simple answer is yes. And if God is putting specific things on your heart and connect you to specific people, then seek what you can do with the power that you have and influence you have.
Absolutely. 100%. All right.
So the other question,
Next
I'll
question.
ask you this one because I actually don't have, I have like 1,200 bosses and no boss at the same time. So I talked about the boss-employee relationship and, really like having a submissive spirit and work hard and not grumbling or complaining. But what about when your boss is abusive? When do you confront your boss? So when I was yelling at you all the time, how did you go about that?
I came back swinging. Don't do that. Don't come back swinging.
No. But for clarity, I don't think I've
You've never yelled
at somebody who.
Yeah, I would say, one, laying down your life and honoring Christ in your work does not mean being a doormat.
Right.
And so some people would say having a submissive spirit means you just have to take whatever comes. No, that's not true. I think you have to first examine like your own, what is the environment you're in?
Right.
And really what recourse do you have? Can you talk to your boss? And I would say that if you're confronting someone who's in a position above you, you probably should, and you've sensed, especially in these dynamics where it's abusive or you're being taken advantage of, you probably should have someone with you. Because it probably, if this is a true dynamic that's happening, it's not going to go well, probably, or it's going to be turned back. So you got to exercise a lot of wisdom and discernment in how you do that. I would definitely have someone with you. And there's lots of practical things that you could do, but ultimately, at the end of the day, if there's not receptivity to any kind of confrontation, whether it's by you and a witness, or if there is some kind of accountability for the boss, then you really got to figure out, okay, if this is how it's going to be, is there a way out? And count the cost of that, and get out. You I would say you should not stay in a situation where you're being abused and taken advantage of. However, I recognize that some people in those positions don't have options or don't see the options, and so you need to get outside help to find options, for employment, don't leave any stone unturned, because I do feel like people, there's people who may stay in that because of something, going on in their own mind or heart and reasons that they've put themselves in. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you feel like you're in that position and don't have a way out because you can't find other employment, like you exercise every resource you have to find a way out, because it's not God's design.
I mean, there are exceptions to this, but I think, I would first ask, so examine our motives, what, so if we feel we're in this position, okay, let me check my heart first, right? And that's always how we want to do that. I mean, in any relationship, let me check my heart, examine the things that need to be better. If we still see there's this major issue, then have we addressed any of it with them? Because if we never addressed anything, then the truth is they may be completely blind to it. And again, there are exceptions, but by and large, I think, and you probably don't want to list off all your things, but maybe just test the waters. If I say, hey, there's this one thing, and if that increases the pressure, then okay, we're gonna stop what we're doing right here. But you may see progress there, and so maybe you can make headway after you keep going for a little bit. But ultimately, if you've come to a point where you feel like I do not feel safe addressing my concerns, most organizations have somebody that is who you go to. So whether that's human resources, the U.S. government, obviously, most leaders do not have full authority. Right. They have authority's been entrusted. I mean, if you had an issue with me that wasn't being addressed, you would go to our deacons. I mean, that's, what you would do. In a private sector, that's a little different. Right. And so you might want to consult legal advice. And then I would ultimately say, as you've said, if you feel you've exhausted all avenues, there may just come a point where you got to trust God for your soul. And if you're like, well, what about money? What does it profit a man to gain the world and forfeit his whole soul? Yep. And I would say there too, sometimes there may be a need to go public, but is it vindictiveness or is it protection of other people? You really have to examine your heart. And so, I would just say legal advice, spiritual advice, personal advice from people who know you well, who are going to speak to no, you're the problem.
Don't handle this alone for sure.
But I mean, ultimately, you're not a slave, you don't have to endure this, and so I was going to use this example. I just knocked over a water bottle, but I was going to use this example, but I just felt like it wasn't. I remember when COVID was big. That was 3 months in Florida, but in our country, it was a while longer. And people were like, hey, I don't have to get vaccinated because, God. And I'm like, you're right. But the scripture never says that when you trust, because they felt like they were trusting God not to get vaccinated, and we're not going to get in that. But I was telling them the scripture never says that you won't have to deal with the consequences of that. Yeah. So if you feel convicted about something, persist, but also know, people felt convicted about sharing the gospel and were beheaded. Right. God never promised you wouldn't be. And so I do think as Americans, we tend to confuse what God has promised with what our law says. And so we need to be aware of that. But we do live in a country where, there is, back to this issue, freedom of religion. Right. So we should be having the opportunity to say, hey, or freedom of speech or whatever. Anyway, I don't know.
It's good. I agree.
We can talk about that.
I know, right? Because again, you can nuance it out. But.
All right, game time.
Game time.
All right,
bring it.
It's been kind of serious.
It has been. No, I wasn't expecting the questions to be but
okay.
They're there.
Even with the dress code I'm wearing. Okay, so we're gonna do a Christmas decoration over under.
Okay.
So I have 9 questions, and you got to tell me over or under. You ready?
Is this highest retail price without going over?
No, it's different things.
Okay,
it's different things.
All right.
So some of that, yes, but okay. So the number of Christmas trees sold per year.
Okay.
50 million.
Is this US?
over?
US?
In the US. Okay. Is it over or under 50 million?
Over.
Under.
What?
30 million Christmas trees per year.
Real and artificial? Really?
No, just trees, real trees sold per year.
Real trees.
But remember, you don't have to buy an artificial tree every year.
Well, Yeah, that's
but
true.
real trees.
Some people do.
Yeah, so it's under 30 million.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Yeah. So
okay, I stand corrected.
But there are at any
the
given
internet doesn't
time
lie.
like 300 million trees being grown.
That's true. Everywhere.
How many trees get thrown away every year?
I would say
I want to write a children's book on a discarded Christmas tree. I'm serious. Wouldn't that be a great idea?
Yeah.
Dude.
That's
a money maker
what happens?
right there.
It gets sent to the chipper.
And you this whole story. Oh, that can't be. That's why you're not writing the book, bro.
That's why I don't write
I'm
children's
writing the
books
book.
right
He's going to have
Here's
like
the
this
reality
second
of life, children.
And the gospel.
Yeah.
Man, I'm serious. That's a good idea.
Oh.
Okay, don't take it. If you take it, I'm suing you.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Copyright right now.
All right. What is the average time it takes for a Christmas tree to grow into like, hey, this can be sold now?
Are we talking Charlie Brown tree? Are we talking like Macy's?
This, like legit.
Okay.
So, over or under 5 years?
Over.
Correct. It's 7 to 12 years.
Okay. I mean, if you want a real tree, it's got to be at least 6 feet. You know?
So when you think you're buying that tree, right?
right.
Like, and it's got, I don't do real trees because I don't want maggots and bugs in my house.
That happened to us one time when I was a kid.
Yeah,
we came back, we went to see family and came
Squirrel.
back and there was like bugs had hatched in our house because they were in the tree. And that's
but the reason it's as expensive as it is, even though I was cost effective and bought an artificial tree and I only have to buy one every 10 years, the reason it's as expensive as it is because it took 7 to 12 years to grow.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Unless you go out into the woods and just
chop it down. We did that one year and it didn't. I think that's the year we had it.
Okay. Number 3. The percentage of people that have an elf on the shelf in their house, is it over or under 33% of people, of homes? Families.
Under.
It is over.
No.
36% of families have an elf on the shelf.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Now, what percentage of them annoyingly post it every day?
Oh, that's maybe high. Of the people who do it, I feel like if you do it, the whole point is that you can show how creative you are. Listen, I
just don't want to be on social media that month because of that.
Listen.
I'm like, I don't care.
So
also, that's an
we've never
awkward
done
position
stuff like that. And then Ezra came home last year
dirty
with
elf on the shelf,
some stuffed elf that he got at it may have even been here. I don't know where he got this stuffed elf. And then he was convinced it was. So we started doing. Now he doesn't get anything, but our kids do hide that now for him because they keep the magic alive for him. But we don't.
Stuffed elf though.
He's a stuffed elf. He's not the elf on the
you
shelf.
Like put him on a treadmill, like
that's right. He do some exercises.
Yeah.
He's usually like hanging from something because our older kids do stuff.
Okay.
So he's usually in painful positions.
Okay. What percentage of people decorate their house outside for Christmas?
It should be more. It should be more. Everyone
over
should.
Or under 50%?
Under.
You're correct. Only 4 in 10 people put
thinking
outside decorations.
I feel like our area has a higher percentage of
agree.
people, and I don't feel like it's 50%. So that's how I did that.
Yeah,
assessment.
isn't that wild?
Yeah. So growing up, I always wanted to do this. My parents didn't, and then like when I went to college, they started doing it. And I was like, thanks for.
Can't you just like put up one wreath at least or something?
I think they did wreaths, but I wanted lights, and so we do
lights.
What are
you, an atheist?
That's right. So
what are you, a Jehovah's Witness?
Christmas is lights on
Maybe
your house.
you are an atheist or Jehovah's
No,
Witness.
we do lights now, and I love it.
Okay. What percentage of people decorate at all? So you don't see all these decorations, but some people, a lot more people decorate.
Now, is this people celebrating Christmas who don't decorate, or just people in general?
People in general.
Okay.
What percentage of people in the U.S. decorate their house inside or at all? Is it over or under 75%?
Wait, they say that they don't decorate at all.
They do decorate.
They do decorate their house.
Yes.
75. Over.
Yeah, 84% of people decorate. So you can't always judge a book by its cover.
That's right.
Not everybody's a Scrooge. They're just an outside Scrooge.
And I feel like even people who have a problem with Christmas are probably like secretly decorating there because it's just fun to put stuff up.
Yeah,
and they've got snowmen and Santa and elves they can put up. So
lots of atheists celebrating baby Jesus.
Oh, yeah. They're like, yeah, bring me inside.
Okay. All right. What percentage of people decorate before Thanksgiving?
Ooh, we are those people.
Under 25%. You are those people?
Over.
It is under. It's 24%.
Oh, that's a trick question.
Yeah, but no, it's not a trick question. It was over under.
24. All right. So yeah, we do because we typically have been traveling over Thanksgiving, and so we like to do it beforehand. So when we come back, it's done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we
don't turn on the lights before Thanksgiving, though, do you?
Oh, we did this year because the tree it's up. You're turning it on. So typically, we have done the outside lights after Thanksgiving and everything. And so this year we did everything, and it was great. Lights are on.
The average person's utilities increase because of Christmas lights.
Yes.
By $20 over or under that.
Well, When was this survey made?
Just a few years ago.
Okay, so I'm going to say over because now everything's LED, so maybe it's not that much, but over.
It's under.
What?
$16.38.
Oh, well.
But there are some people that it's hundreds of dollars per month. Yeah.
Ours goes up, doesn't go much now.
They said Clark Griswold's would have been $1,400 a month.
That's ridiculous.
Utilities,
I would not do that because I'm way too frugal.
Okay. The largest live nativity, there's only 2 more.
Well, I've done terrible so far.
Had over or under 1,000 people as a part of it.
You know, there's some church somewhere that's done this and they wanted to set a record, so it's got to be over.
It was in Italy, so I think it was Catholics.
Oh, well.
That was just an assumption. And it was over, so I think it was more like, it was over 1,000 people.
Yeah.
As a part of the live nativity.
Wow. I mean, what did 1,000 people do for the live nativity? There's like limited
roles
here.
We should, on Christmas Eve, just like
angels?
make ours a live nativity and like break that record.
There we go.
Church
Let's just do it. You know, I'm just thinking, like, what did people do? I guess they just had a lot of people as angels, you know? I mean, maybe lots of shepherds, lots of magi, I guess.
Lots of donkeys.
I was saying, but they were like the people, it was a live nativity, so I guess they were just a lot of shepherds.
Yeah, there's animals too, right?
I know.
Shepherds,
that was my friend. Like, they all dressed up as animals. Like,
I mean, you think about it, you like walk through, there's shepherd, you know, like you're getting there. On their way.
It could be a lot.
All right.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of poop.
All right.
With the animals.
This isn't a Christmas decoration, but I have an ulterior motive in this.
Okay.
Last year when surveyed, this percentage of people said they plan to attend a church service on Christmas Eve. Was it over or under 50%?
Over.
Yeah.
Over.
51% of people said they plan to attend a church service on Christmas Eve. So you think about, I mean, in our town, which seems super churchy, on an average Sunday, there's less than 20% of our population is in church.
Right.
But on Christmas Eve, I would say here it's higher probably. Over 51% say they plan to attend church on Christmas Eve. So you have a friend who normally doesn't attend church who will come with you on Christmas Eve. Invite them. You don't have to do anything else in our church on Christmas Eve if you have a bunch of people coming with you.
Just come and be here and sit with your friends, sit with the family member who doesn't come to church regularly.
I was looking that way though, because you have stuff to do on Christmas
That's right. I have a good bit to do all day. We have 4 services this year. We've got 11. We've got 2, 3:30, and 5. And that's because it's on a Sunday. So it's just going to be a sweet time. I love Christmas Eve. Candles, communion,
the
all
feels.
the things, all the
same
feels.
Sermon, same music.
Everything's the same. People are going to ask that. Is it different? No, it's all 4 are the same. So come to one. Bring people with you. Don't come alone.
Which one am I
if you're coming alone, we've got people
who'll
sit with you. So do what?
Which one am I repelling?
No,
from
that's
the
right.
in?
We have some crazy pyrotechnics coming on.
No, we don't.
No, I'm not happening here.
Who needs pyrotechnics when you have
the fire of the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
That's right. So, hey, thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you tuning in next time to Noggy Talk.
Thanks for listening to Boggy Talk. We are so glad you joined in the conversation. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss a beat.